I am a recovering addict. My name is Danny.
Hi, Danny.
My excitement and passion for my life today keeps me from sitting in that chair because I remember all the years that I was stuck in a chair somewhere, couldn't move. And I also remember being a young child, and I hated the sound of my own voice so much that I wouldn't even speak. So everything I did was a whisper, and I couldn't say anything out loud. So I'm grateful to the West End area and the programming committee for asking me to come share my experience, strength, and hope. If there's a newcomer in the room, welcome to Narcotics Anonymous, just for the day you never have to use again. Period. What I'd like to do is, the topic is spiritually maturing, which would suggest that at some point I was spiritually unmature. So I'm going to need to start at that point, because I can't really stand here and give you a solution without identifying to you what may or may not have been my problem. I know I'm nervous right now, and I think the reason I'm nervous is because God overrides my ego. My ego is a comfort zone for me. So when I'm on top, and if this room is full, I'm good because I can pretend to put up a facade to be somebody that I'm really not, which I spent my whole life doing. I know I'm a professional at that. Well, there's a few people in here. It's very intimate, you know, and so I just want to be sure that I do and say what God wants me to do and say. I'm also not that addict who will come up here and say, I prayed, now I'm going to get out of the way, and whatever comes out of my mouth is what God wants to come out of my mouth, and I'm not responsible. I'm always responsible for what comes out of my mouth. There is a certain power, it is a privilege and a responsibility to stand behind this right here and carry a Narcotics Anonymous message. I won't talk about being clean and sober because I know the definition of clean and sober. The definition of sober means not drunk. If not drunk was my only problem, I would not need to come here because I don't use anymore. I have a whole lot of other problems. I know the definition of clean means free of disease, free of impurities, and no interior flaws visible. And that's what I strive for. I know the process to do that is an inside job, and it comes through working the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous is a vehicle that God has given an addict like me to bring me closer to Him and to live by spiritual principles. And I do that to the best of my ability. I'm an addict who I've been accused of hiding behind Narcotics Anonymous literature. I'm guilty. If we were in Sunday school, I'd talk about the Bible. If I was somewhere else, I might talk about, if I was at school, I'd talk about school books. If I was in another fellowship, I would talk about their literature. So since this is Narcotics Anonymous, it will make no sense for me to do anything other than talk about Narcotics Anonymous literature. I'm not an addict who came in here and has got a bunch of years clean and never read the literature. I don't understand that. I needed to find identification further than what I could see. So I know identification without personality is found in our literature, which was divinely inspired. Divine means God, and I know that God provided this for me because I needed this, because I don't always like you. The way that you look, the way that you sound, the job that you have, the things that you have that I want and can't get to that place. So when I was incarcerated, I was able to find these books and start reading these books, and I realized that somebody had wrote a book about me long before I ever got here. To share on this topic, I was thinking about how, as a child, my parents used to take me to church, which was really a joke to me. I never liked going to church, and I remember that man screaming and yelling all the time at the church we used to go to. And I thought, if that's what God is, then I don't want to have anything to do with God. Also, I thought to myself, if there's a God, I don't know how He could let a male family member rape me for 5 years, you know. So at that point, I had started to build some mask, even way before I started using, just to allow myself to function. And this is way before the drug use. So I know I was an addict way before I ever picked up a drug. I'm going to read something out of the literature. Developing a personal style for carrying the message rests on a simple requirement. We must be ourselves. We each have a special one-of-a-kind personality that is sure to be an attraction to many. Some of us have a sparkling sense of humor, which may reach someone in despair. Some of us are especially warm and compassionate, able to reach an addict who has rarely been the recipient of kindness. Some of us have a remarkable talent for telling the truth in no uncertain terms to an addict literally dying to hear it. Some of us are a valuable asset on any service committee, while others do better working one-on-one with the suffering addict. Whatever our own personality makeup, we can be assured that when we sincerely try to carry the message, we can reach the addict seeking recovery. I don't know how to tell you about spiritually maturing unless I just carry you through my step process. I could say that I came in, I stopped using, I went to meetings, and if that's all that I had did, I probably would be incarcerated or dead with a affinity medallion. Because I needed to change some things. The things that I needed to change were in here. And so for this addict, I was not willing to get clean. I got clean because God stopped me in my tracks. I know that a new structure could not be built over top of the old structure. And I know that the old structure had to be broken down completely to the ground so it could be fresh, built from the ground up. And that's what happened to me. So through my time in Department of Corrections, and I always like to take a moment to thank God for the Virginia Department of Corrections for stopping me in my tracks so I could just take a breath and acknowledge what had happened in my life. The literature talks about slowly committing suicide, and that's true. And if I stop at slowly committing suicide, that becomes so self-absorbed that I'm the only person that I was hurting. And the truth is, I was slowly committing homicide, to my family, to society at large, to institutions, to school, to anyone that I came in contact was in danger, And so to go from that point to where I'm at today, the topic is kind of uncomfortable because if there's anybody in here like me, I'm better on sharing on like some fucked up topic like sharing clean, living dirty, or the audio don't match the video, or fucking the newcomer, or and by the way, I went to a meeting one time, and when I got through sharing, this lady came up to me and said, "Do you know you said the word fuck 87 times?" I said, "Did you count the number of times I said the word God?" Okay. Because if you're looking for God, you'll find God, and if you're looking to get fucked, you can get fucked. Right up in here, So sometimes I use profanity, right? That's not on my priority list right now. Thank God for my predecessors, though, that hold me to a higher standard. So one day I can get to that point. I'm just trying to pay my bills on time now, And I'm thinking about spiritually maturing, and I'm thinking about how I went out of the area and I was sharing about my story, and part of my story was my mother and my father split up when I was young, and this is what I said. I wanted to go back and we were talking about it last night, put a retraction in and be like, I said something wrong. Because after we moved through a couple more steps, I realized that the things that I was saying was so self-centered. And before I even touched the 8th step, I said, my mother left me. And I was convinced that my mother left me. And I'm still living in a resentment, treat my mother a certain way because my mother left me. Never once did it cross my mind that my mother had a life and her own set of problems, and what was she going through? And when other people started to become just as, if not more important than me, I realized that no matter if anyone else saw it, I knew something was happening. I wouldn't call it spiritually maturing, but in fact, the evidence is so overwhelming that there's nothing else that it could be, The changes that have happened just as a direct result of doing step work. I started on step 1 while I was locked up. I didn't have anybody to go over it with, but I got in these books all the time and started writing on step 1. And I finished it before I got out. I know they say we need to go over our steps with a sponsor and all that shit. I was locked up then. I was nowhere near a sponsor, nowhere near a home group. There was a H&I meeting at the facility I was at. That facility had 480 drug offenders, and only 5 to 7 people went to the H&I meeting every week. So if you need to know what denial is and you don't really have a good idea, holler at me after this meeting, because I was living in that. But I was not fooled. My back was broken. I knew that something had to change. And I knew that it wasn't just that I needed to get clean. I knew I had a whole lot of problems. And I'm talking about learned behaviors. I just didn't wait. The literature talks about we no longer need to make fools of ourselves by standing up for non-existent virtues. A virtue is a belief, and those are things that I came up with a child, My mother taught me how to lie, manipulate, kind. My mother took me places, and people that were supposed to care for me put me in situations where I learned behaviors from them. Now, I already had this other thing happen, and I did not like myself. And I still don't like myself. I'd love to be able to share some profound message and tell you I've been clean going on 4 years. I have a whole lot of things going for me, and I'm really okay with myself, but I'm not. But I will carry the full message to tell you no matter how I feel, I know that good, bad, or indifferent, all feelings will eventually pass. So I don't have to use over the way I feel anymore. And that in itself is a huge burden that's been lifted upon me. For the person that comes in behind me and gets those days, 30, 60, 90 days, anybody that has more than that, 6 months, a year, where it's just really overwhelming, and you just wonder, what the fuck is happening here? And what I always did is go back to do what I knew to do. And today I have so many things in between me and my last use that picking up will not be the first thing that I do. So I have some time to look at what I'm doing before that happens. I do know that only through God's grace and mercy am I clean today. And I also know that it's not by luck. It's not. I didn't just wake up and it's like luck of the draw. We're all thrown in the dish and somebody will pull out a number and that person will go use today. Bullshit. I'm responsible for my recovery, and I'm not going to use today, no matter what my luck is, no matter what happens. I'm thoroughly convinced that I cannot use successfully. It talks about in How and Why in the first step that as long as we think that we can use successfully, we're almost forced to continue. And that's what that's what I thought my whole life. I just thought if I changed enough things, I could continue to do the thing that was killing me. And it didn't work out that way. I worked the first step. I was introduced to my disease. I do know that when I first worked a first step, I knew I needed to surrender to something. So I surrendered to the drug use. But in reality, and we're talking about spiritually maturing, God is who I need to surrender to. Because if I come in here running on my own agenda and I'm not doing the thing that God saved me to do, then I'm steadily going against what God wants. God didn't save me for me. God saved me for you. And as long as I know that I'm spiritually maturing. Now, when I go home or on the trip up here and I'm so self-centered, and it talks about in Triangle of Self-Obsession IP, and by the way, if anyone doesn't know, IPs are Narcotics Anonymous literature too. It talks about we were the center of our own universe. And it says we didn't think that the world should revolve around us, but that it does. And that's talking about a small child. And it said most of us grow out of that, but as addicts, we seem to falter along the way. Because I still want to hold somebody else responsible for the predicament I put myself in. And that's the beauty of, going through step 2. And the step 2 is the I'm not God step, right? And I can ask you to help me. And I also know about step 2 is that step 2 doesn't talk about God. Step 2 doesn't talk about a higher power. If you think it does, read. It talks about a power greater than myself. See, for a person like me who had a problem with God, I needed to find a way to get close to the thing that was saving me without putting a label on it, right? So one of the questions in step 2 is, what do I believe? And I remember my answer on that. And one of the first things that I wrote is, I believe in pain. I believe you will leave me. I believe in abandonment. I believe that people are dishonest. I wrote a bunch of negative things, and after I got past them, I believe my father loves me. I believe that my father has not non-existent virtues. My father had virtues, and I always wanted to be like him. Guilt and shame crushed me because I wasn't willing to be like him, and so I started using. And I'm a parent today. I don't like children. I don't like my children. I just don't want to be around them. I'm still, a lot of times, so self-centered that I don't want to put the time and effort it comes in to taking care of them or even spending time with them. One of the things that I've had to learn, and this has all happened in the past year or two, is that I can't expect to continue to be blessed to continue to harm God's children. God does not like that. He wants me to be well. I'm talking about my God. Now, anybody can do what they want to do. Narcotics Anonymously fiercely defends the right for anyone to have a God of their own understanding. And it's made it real hard to go places and share and do certain things for Narcotics Anonymous in the name of recovery when I'm still a motherfucking asshole most of the time. I can share good. I can take and sprinkle the literature all over you. I know that the power of life and death lies in the tongue. I know that words are spiritual. I know that the most important thing in this room is the thing that I can't see. And I know that if you don't believe it, then take the air out of this room. And what happens? We die. Everything that you can see will die if you remove all the unseen. It's such a hard concept for me to grasp because I'm so stuck on what's on the outside. And the only way I can acknowledge that and make it real is to say it out loud. If I got to say it out loud here, if I have to say it in front of 15 people, if I have to say it in front of 1,500 people, my life's on the line, And so I have to do that, and I've constantly been doing that recently. I moved into a 4-step after I got out, got a sponsor. I worked steps 1, 2, and 3. I had a foundation, and I knew something would save me. I wasn't quite sure what it was. I had a whole lot of problems, just like anyone else. And I worked the 4-step. And what I come to find out about my 4-step was probably 95 to 98% of all the resentments I had were just really unrealistic expectations that I had placed on you. When you didn't live up to what I wanted you to do, I resented you. I still behave today based on something that happened to me 30 years ago.
That's right.
I'm still remain a victim of my past because I no longer have to have responsibility for my actions when I can hold you accountable for something that happened to me. I don't live like that today. I have those thoughts, but no matter what happens when I get up in the morning, I keep moving forward. Constantly moving forward. And so I went through my 4-step. I did a 5th step. I made it to the 6th step. And and the topic is spiritually maturing. And the good thing about, at the end of the 4th step, it asks you to list assets, which is really hard after I wrote a bunch of dirty shit about myself. But I was able to come up with a few. And the assets that I needed to come up with basically were ones that my father had that I wanted to have. I couldn't really find any in myself. So I made it to the 6th step. I started writing about character defects. And the literature talks about character defects are basic human traits which have been distorted out of proportion by our total self-centeredness. So I was able to look back and think about a time when I didn't use. Look, I had 14 years clean, and then I turned 15 years old. So I wasn't always bad, but I convinced myself that there was no way out of this. And even through the step process, it seemed so awkward for me to keep moving forward. But I persevered anyway. And by the way, perseverance is a course of action taken in spite of difficulty or opposition. And I look up words all the time because I want to know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I don't need to come in here, allow anybody to tell me anything, call it acceptance, when what it really is me being a doormat and a people pleaser because I feel so bad about myself that I need you to like me at any cost.
Okay.
Not today. I have a voice today. You know, knowledge must always precede accountability. Me and Charles were talking about that. When I become aware of something, there's no more excuses on that thing. You know, then it's a choice that I make. And I have to sleep with myself at night. And I need to tell you that denial is always on the other side of my pillow. You know, I can real easily roll over and just go back into that fantasy world. I worked a 6-step. I found out that I did have a lot of assets. At the time, the sponsor that I had asked me to go around and get a defect and an asset from 20 people. And that's what I did. And I kind of narrowed my list down, and I came up with the list of defects and assets. And, you know, my number one character defect was lust, which means excessive sexual desire. And what I found out that in my mind, I thought my number one asset was my penis. I'm just being honest. I mean, because somehow that could validate me as a man. You know, if you smile at me, if you compliment me, if I can do something just to provoke an action in you without letting you know the scared, vulnerable child I am inside, then I have been a success that day at fooling you. But it talks about we are masters of self-deception. I'll lie to myself, believe my lie, and get mad at you when you don't believe it. Right? And I know that's what I do. You know? I went through my 6-step. I came up with some assets, some defects. I kind of defined them. I got an understanding of what I was working with, and I moved on to 7. Step 7 has been the absolute most profound spirit-provoking step that I've been through. Because step 7 let me know that I have limitations. See, I put myself in situations way beyond my limitations. My step work showed me what they were. I don't live up to the unrealistic expectations I put on myself. And then I have resentments against myself. You know, so I'm constantly in turmoil with myself because I put myself in situations. And look, I'm not a good boyfriend. My step work tells me you are unable to do that right now. You still don't know who you are, right? But I need to be in this relationship. You know, I don't even know. It like completes me. You know, I'm still trying to fix a spiritual problem with a physical solution. You know, and it's not working. Does it cause me harm? Yes. Does it cause other people harm? Yes. I didn't want to put myself on my 8-step. I didn't. I wrote the whole thing, I finished it, and it was a month later when I looked back on it and said, damn, you didn't even put yourself on your 8-step. The literature talks about we did many people great harm, but most of all we harmed ourselves. If I'm making a list of all the people that I've harmed, becoming willing to make amends to them all, then I need to be on that list. But I still think so lowly of myself sometimes that I wouldn't put myself on that list because I know the things I do to validate my existence. Thank God for Narcotics Anonymous. I'm telling you that I could actually come in here. I can go anywhere. You know, I can read our literature. I can go to meetings and I can get the love and acceptance that I need. I made it hard. I'll tell you what I do. I teach people how to treat me. I want you to respect me, but I don't respect myself. I want you to do things for me, but I don't do them for myself. So I'm teaching people how to treat me. Then I'm upset with you when you say something about me that's true. You know, then I ain't going to that meeting. Fuck that. I'm not even going in that area. You know, I'll tell you what. There have been days. I am a success story because I don't use no matter what. You know? I do the absolute best I can. I pay my bills. I have a job. I have a lot of good things. I have a sponsor. I have sponsees. I do step work. On most days, I'm not a danger to society anymore. You know, but it's been very, very difficult. And the step that I just finished and I'm working on now, it goes right along with the topic of spiritually maturing. I mean, it actually makes me so humble that, depending on what the topic is and where I share at, I like to just come in and share my fucking ass off. And I can do that. I can do that. I can set those books out and I can tell y'all some really good stories, man. But damn, man, if I'm talking about my own personal recovery, you know, they asked about my experience. Experience, a course of action. I mean, experience is the act of living through an event and the knowledge gained from that act. So I have to tell you what happened for me, you know, and what's still happening, you know, and I'm still in the struggle. You know, I know the struggle builds character. I'm going to say that it does, because otherwise it's going to be in vain. You know, and if it could just help one other person that comes behind me who's in the same situation I'm in, saying, you know, I'm not about to step out of Narcotics Anonymous. There's nowhere left for me to go. You know, I came here completely defeated and broken. And nobody else really wants me. You know, it's taken a long time for me to rebuild some relationships that I've had. Before I got this topic, I wouldn't have called it spiritually maturing. I would just say that, you know, at some point, like in the back of my mind, talk about reservations. In the back of my mind, I may need my mother to do something for me someday when this doesn't work out. So I'm going to make amends to her. Not because I felt like I did something wrong, because I may need her. Can anybody relate to that? I mean, I'm the only person that lies to myself and believes that shit. And a little while later, you know you just lied to yourself. And it's like everything you did had a really hidden agenda. And it wasn't because it was God's reason, but it was because it's what I wanted to do. But then you don't want to tell anybody because of your step work and your sponsees in your area and they ask you to share here. If you go say it, somebody might listen to that, or a person recording or the chairperson say, that motherfucker is not right. Listen, man. I'm a human being, first and foremost. Welcome to the human race, Danny. You know, I have things that go on in my head. I can say them out loud and not act on them. I mean, freedom from active addiction is freedom from impulse action. I can have a thought. I can even obsess. As long as I don't put a compulsion with that, I can avoid a whole lot of the negative consequences that come behind it. You know. So I can tell you that some of the amends that I need to make, I'm making them for the wrong reason. I've heard it shared, do the right thing for the right reason. But listen to this. Just do the right thing. Whatever reason you have, if you do the right thing long enough, it'll become a habit to do the right thing. You know, the literature talks about action and prayer, not prayer and action. I got to pray while I'm walking. Like I sat at the house praying for a job for a year. Jess was there. Charles remembers. Only thing missing was the fucking pipe, man. Everything was piled up. People came over and said, damn, man. It's always an eviction notice on the door. I had a beat up car, no driver's license, none of that shit. But I'm praying. I prayed till I cried. God help me. You know, and God was like, damn, Danny, could you fucking help yourself, man? I put you in the presence of people with influence, you know, but you still won't do shit. I didn't want to do shit. I know how to live up in a house and not do a damn thing, you know. So it's really hard to get through that barrier right there. You know, I like to say I'm a productive member of society, but am I really? Yeah, I really am. Do I want to be? Not really. I do know that self-esteem comes from doing esteemable things. I know that I can't pray for self-esteem while I'm laying in the bed not doing shit, right? So when I show up for work when I don't want to, when I do the things that I don't want to, when I spend that extra minute, you know what it talks about? Go to that extra minute meeting, spend that extra minute on the phone with a newcomer. That shit is vital to my recovery. That I go hard on that. And there are people in this room that know that I go hard on that. I spread myself thin, and I don't have a fucking balance. But, you know, that comes after years in recovery, man. This thing is a process. Like I know the difference between a process and being stuck. I'm not stuck. I have been stuck on some things, but I am in a process. And by the way, I won't change till I get ready. You know, till I get ready. It talks about in the first step right here in this book, when we were defeated, when we were beaten, we became willing. If there's anybody in here like me, I can take a beat. Beat me. And that's not talking about, I'm talking about carrying a defect to the bitter end clean and getting beaten spiritually. Like when you're separated from God, like that's the despair and loneliness that brought me here. It wasn't that I was using, it's just that I was so scared and alone because there was nobody left to pray to. Like, I remember years before I got clean and saying that prayer all the time, God help me, God help me. And he did help me. But it was not how I thought it would be. You know, he didn't need my permission or my cooperation to help me. You know, I'm a salvageable person and God has a plan for me. He did not make a mistake with me. You know. So what I do is I show up and I do the best that I can on a daily basis. Some days are better than others. Most importantly, I'm just a human being. And the 7th step talks about that. It talks about the people. We need to remember that the people sitting next to us have good days, bad days, that they're doing the best that they can, just like I am. You know, the step process has allowed me to let you be right, to let you be wrong. Sometimes it's allowed me to just shut the fuck up, man. Just shut up, man. You know, because I don't have all the answers. I'm just here. I can't. You know, a lot of days I can't believe that this is my life. I got a new car recently, and I keep the old car in my driveway because in the back of my mind, when this shit don't work out, I can still throw all my stuff in that old car and hit the road. You know, and to free myself from those reservations, I got to say it out loud. You know, no matter how long we've been clean or what fucking step we're on or what we do. If you identify yourself as an addict like me, then you have the same disease that I do. I know that this disease has many symptoms. And if you have symptoms that I don't have, or I have symptoms that you don't have, that's okay. You know, my sponsor shared something with me about, you know how a diamond shines when the light hits it? It's beautiful. But what's happening on the back side of that diamond when the light's hitting the front side? That's my defects, man. I would have liked to leave them in that chair right there. You know, I couldn't. They come with me when I come up here. So I try to offset them with what God's will is for me. You know, I know first and foremost that I'm not an expert in knowing what God's will is, but I know what it's not. I know he doesn't want me to harm people. I know that my intentions a lot of times don't mean shit. That's just an excuse. I didn't intend on doing that, you know. But I make plans like a motherfucker, man. And all of them ain't good. A lot of them are, though, today, you know. From a year ago when I went to Dayton in November, remember, Jess? There was a eviction notice on my door. I didn't have a job. I didn't have shit. I done missed the meeting with my PO. My driver's license was suspended. I could just start. But they called and asked me to go to Dayton. Man, we going to Dayton, man. Because, you know, like, I still need to feed my ego, man. I mean, and that's really, a lot of times it's not ego. It's just God has put me in a situation where he will let y'all love me. And nobody give a fuck what I had to say before. I couldn't even talk. I was so stuck. And I wasn't stuck physically, but my spirit was bound down. It's in the 7th step. That essential ray of spiritual light had been cut off, severed. You know, and it's really scary when you just can't even pray to God because I'm so ashamed and embarrassed of the way I've been living. And I would just rather be alone and suffer a degrading death than pray to God to please help me because I'm so ashamed of my life. I am not that person today. And then it's been a process of going to meetings, networking with people that love me, telling you how I feel, even though I don't want to tell you and be vulnerable, you know, working steps, applying steps. I mean, this says the step working God. It doesn't say the step writing God. I can write shit down all day long. It doesn't mean anything, you know. So I have to find a way to get this in here. Not in here, not in here, but in here. I know a confession comes out of my mouth, but I know an admission is when I believe that confession. It comes from my heart. You know, so when I start admitting things, you know, I can really get a handle on them and start to do work, or let you help me if I'm not willing to do work. You know, I'm just really grateful to be clean. I know that gratitude is an action word. It's not something I say, it's something that I do. If I'm grateful, then I'll treat this like a precious gift. I'll treat it when I wake up. I didn't have to search for gratitude. I'm not that addict that woke up this morning and said I'm trying to find something to be grateful for. I remember what it was like. You know, I know that I have a conscious contact with the God of my understanding. I know that I do, you know. And so I'm not constantly seeking approval in that area now. And as long as I remember what it was like the day before I got clean, I don't never need to go back there, you know. I don't come up here and talk about what I did, what drugs I did. I don't need to be substance specific. I don't need to do all that. I mean, I drove 8 hours to tell you that I'm an addict. You know what I did. Wherever you're from, we did the same thing where I'm from. Man, you know, whatever that is. This is on page 92 of our basic text. Our higher power is accessible to us at all times. We receive guidance when we ask for knowledge of God's will for us. Gradually, as we become more God-centered than self-centered, our despair turns to hope. Change also involves the great source of fear, the unknown. Our higher power is the source of courage that we need to face this fear. Some things we must accept, others we can change, but the wisdom to know the difference comes from growth in our spiritual program. And in a sentence, that is spiritual maturity. Thank you for letting me share.
Now we have our next speaker, Robin W. from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, family. Hi, family. I'm an addict. My name is Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Danny, thank you. When Archie asked me to share at one of the workshops, I was honored. I was taught that when somebody asks you to share, you say yes, no matter what. And I lived that to the fullest. He didn't tell me the topic until last month. And I forgot. My job gets me all over the world. Well, all over the West Coast, East Coast. Up and down 95, 75, 85. I drive 18-wheelers over the road. Okay. 81, too, for you Roanoke people. We have a yard there, too, so I'll be getting y'all's number when I'm stuck in Roanoke. We can call each other. That was one of my dreams. You know, first let me do one thing. My clean date is March 5th, 1988. For those of you who don't have the calculator, that's 21 years. Okay. I came into this program spiritually beaten. I mean, really spiritually beaten. When that second step said we came to believe, I didn't believe nothing. A power greater than myself? Oh, no. I was the greatest. My best thinking got me in this seat. I'll never forget March 4th of 1988. That was my last high. I was on my honeymoon with my second ex-husband. We were in Niagara Falls. By God's grace, he rushed me to the emergency room and got my stomach pumped. I was so spiritually beaten that there was nothing that anybody could say to me that wouldn't get me to stop crying. that wouldn't get me to believe that I was a great person or just a goddamn good person. There was nothing anybody could say to me to tell me that I was worthwhile of being worthy of myself. So I did try to kill myself. Besides the fact that I had been trying to kill myself all those other years, I had a daughter. I had just got married. Why would I be depressed? When I woke up in that psychiatric hospital strapped to the bed and I saw the other woman in the other bed jumping up and down and acting stupid, I said, well, damn, where the hell am I? And I swore to God that day I would never use again if he got me out of this place. And by God's grace, I never used again. It took a slow turn for me to become spiritually maturing. It didn't happen overnight. I had some high clouds, low clouds. I've had a lot of deaths in my family. When I had 6 months clean, my gynecologist, and for you guys, that's the female doctor, he told me I had to have a hysterectomy. Well, I'm a good addict. I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm in the program of Narcotics Anonymous, and they told me no major changes or decisions in the first year, so I'll see you in 6 months. And he said, you'll be dead in 6 months. Did God carry me to get clean for 6 months so that I would die in another 6 months? So I had the surgery. I ain't that crazy. And it went good. After that surgery, my grandmother died in my arms. I didn't use. After that, my daughter acted crazy. She was 16 and grown. I didn't use. I kept praying, saying, God, what did you put me through all this for? I already had a bunch of bull crap going on. Why are you giving me some more bull crap? But I still didn't use. And I slowly, spiritually, I started remembering that he only gives me what I can deal with. And whatever he gives me at this point, he's getting me ready for this point. And I don't even see the points. I don't see the connections. All I know is that through everything, I'm hurting today. So, my daughter went in the Marines. I had 7 years. I said, yeah. Let's start our life off new. I only had one child. So we left Connecticut and came to Atlanta, Georgia. Well, Atlanta don't get stay clean like we did in Connecticut. If I called the helpline, Atlanta didn't come and get me and show me the meetings like we did in Connecticut. So I got a resentment against Atlanta. And I kept that resentment against Atlanta and married an active alcoholic and stayed married to the active alcoholic until I buried my mother, who every year on the 5th of March would call me and say, happy anniversary, baby, I love you. I had 16 years when my mother died. And I crawled to the meetings in Atlanta. By that time, they had GPS and all that good stuff, so I could find a meeting. I don't care. I wasn't a truck driver then. Oh, by the way, I was late this morning because I got lost. I figured y'all find that hysterical. I kept going the wrong way. But I made it. And the one thing I always remembered from the first time I came into these rooms, I'm never late. I got here when I was supposed to. Mm-hmm. So I just prayed and I said, God, now I was there last night. Why can't you get me back there this morning? I got to be there for 9. Archie done called. I got to be. And I got here. So I was supposed to get here when I did. Once I divorced that very nice man, the active alcoholic, he was husband number 3. I've played baseball 3 strikes. Guess what? I am out. But I'm going to hit a home run one day because God's got this perfect person for me. And until he knows I'm ready for that person, he won't let me see that person. I've asked for emails, text messages, and just a voice in the ear. And he ain't telling. But the one thing that I know, that God will not let me down. God is with me 100%. My spirit is it's overwhelming at times. I think I really know why Archie picked this topic for me. Last June 25th, to be exact, of 2008, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. First, I lost my mind because I knew they were kidding. They looked at the wrong, biopsy stuff. Because I knew God wouldn't have put this in front of me. I had 20 years clean. Why? You don't ever ask why.
That's right.
He put it on me 20 years after my first incident. See, they're all connected now. It's a little chain. Because he built me up. Oh, I forgot to tell you, my dad died of cancer. I knew there was another thing I forgot to make that little loop. And my dad died a year and a half before I had to have my surgery of the tumors for the female thing with the gynecologist. So he had cancer. I had tumors. I've got breast cancer. But I worked my way through it. I had a double mastectomy. I've been through chemo. In the middle of chemo, I wound up with a blood infection. And that's why I wasn't here last year. I was going through that minor technicality. But my spirit has never failed. Because you see, I know that God has this special thing for me. He did not leave me here from March 5th when I tried to take my life to let me fail now. He's got this big thing for me, and he won't tell me what it is. He's got this mystery, and it's okay today. In between my chemos, I filed Chapter 7, and I lost my house, and I lost my car. And it's okay today. Because you know what? God's got something bigger and better in store for me. As long as I believe in here. Up here tells me all kinds of crazy stuff. Up here tells me you ain't worthy of anything bigger and better. You're not worthy of being a good person. You're not worthy of being a good mother. You're not worthy of being a good grandmother. But God is in here, in my heart, in my soul. And he tells me, you're worthy of anything and everything you ever thought you could have. Because as long as you believe, and I believe, because he wouldn't have let me survive all this other crapola just to let me fall now. No. And I know that from my heart. And on top of the God of my understanding, my father's there, my grandmother's there, my godfather's there, my mother's there, my brother's there, my cousin's there, and they're all standing around God. And they're holding me together with him. And they've got all these plans for what's going to go on. And they won't tell me, though. But I know that sometime, as long as I do the footwork and make sure that God knows that I'm being sincere about that footwork, and I'm not trying to get over on you, or bullshit y'all. Right. He knows that it's from my heart, that what I'm doing is the best that I can do. It's not the best that you can do That's the only time in this program of Narcotics Anonymous is that when we use the I word. I have to do the best that I can do so that God knows that I am working on what he and y'all have in store for me. It's not what I have in store for me, because remember, my best thinking got me here. Because I really thought I was doing right getting married and going to Niagara Falls for my honeymoon, and I tried to kill myself on my honeymoon. But it's okay, because everything that has happened in my life has shown me that the God of my understanding, and I do choose to call him God today, and I call him Father, and I call him Mother, and everybody else who has passed along the way. But I do understand and know that he's got this great thing in store for me. And I don't even know what it is. When I lost my house, I said, that's okay. Guess what? He's got something bigger and better in store for me, and I'm okay with it. When they took my car, I said, that's okay. He's got something bigger and better in store for me. And you know what? I wasn't just saying those words. I felt it. I know he does. He's not going to let me fall. So as far as spiritually maturing, I've been taking those steps. And as far as I can see, you guys have told me I'm taking those right steps. I'm not alone. I am never alone. Okay? No matter whether I'm in my 18-wheeler driving up and down the highway, my phone will ring, or I'll look over in the passenger seat and I'll just talk to God, because you know what? He rides with me every time I go anywhere. I have conversations with him. It's not on my knees all the time. When I hit my knees, that's when my back is really up against the wall and I can't figure out anything else to do. I talk to my God every single day. Whenever I say hello, I'm saying hello to God. Whenever I'm telling that four-wheeler to get the hell out of my way, I'm asking God to move that four-wheeler out of my way, because I don't feel like hitting the brakes. But God says hit the brake, Robin, and I do. Because those are the kind of things that I didn't have that kind of stuff before I came into these rooms. I was spiritual. I went to church every Sunday. I did the things that I was supposed to do. My second ex-husband told me a family that prays together stays together. So every Sunday we went to church. After we left the clubs, and we all went to church. And that's what he always told. He said, families prays together, stays together. Okay, let's go to church. And that's what I did. I was brought up in the church. If y'all who know about the great ministers, Adam Clayton Powell baptized me in Abyssinia Baptist Church in New York. You know, my niece, my youngest niece, still sings in the church choir of Abyssinia Baptist Church. They know me when I go in there. I don't go in too often. That's the thing now. That's what I'm working on. I don't go to church. I go to a meeting. I used to get high in church. I used to sit up in the choir's pulpit and take my tokes and my snorts. So now I'm working on getting back into church. I haven't found one I really feel comfortable going into, because you know how we take everybody's inventory? In the church? Oh, good Lord, have merciful. And I have yet to stomach that. I'm not a drama queen. I don't even like drama. I've been coming around to these rooms for 21 years. In Connecticut, in Georgia, I've been to world conventions, and a lot of people don't know me because I just come in and I go out. I laugh, I smile, I share every once in a while, but I stay to Robin. A lot of women know me because I drive the 18-wheelers over the road, and everybody finds that amazing. But I still just stay to Robin. Because that's who I am. I don't need to have everybody and their mother knowing me. I don't need everybody to know where I'm at today. I have a little circle. I talk to my female friends. And you know what? I also have a life outside of Narcotics Anonymous also. Okay? And I've talked to a lot of people, and I've talked to people and they said, oh, I don't have any friends outside the rooms. Okay. I have lots of friends outside of these rooms. And the way I know that they're my friends is they know I'm in the rooms, and if they can respect me enough like y'all do, to not to use or abuse anything in front of me, and that means people, places, and things, not just a drink or a drug. And as long as they can do that with me, they're my friend. Because I have a tendency of abusing not just drugs anymore, because I don't think about that anymore. I abuse people, places, and things. But now I don't have to abuse people, places, and things because I got you guys in my life. And when I have to use you guys and say, I can't get this, I'm hurting, y'all show up. And sometimes my people outside of the program show up. And the ones outside of the program, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And those are the same ones that'll look at me and say, you need a meeting. Go ahead and go. We'll be here when you get back. Or did you call your sponsor? And they know my friends' names in the program. Because I make it one big happy family. I have, for instance, I'll be in Philadelphia for Thanksgiving because that's where my daughter lives. And I've already set up for meetings because I've been there before. But I'm taking people with me because I have friends who never left Georgia now. See, I meet somebody, and if those radars don't come up and tell me, don't stay around them because they ain't going to be your friend. They're going to use you, abuse you, just what you used to do. Then I don't stay around them. And then I meet these really nice people who care, and they tell me, Robin, you're an okay person, you know that? And I'm like, nah, I'm not. So when I still can't realize why I'm here, why God put me here, why he allowed me to get 21 years, why he went through my father dying before I got into the rooms, the tumors when I first came into the rooms, to my grandmother dying, my daughter acting up and going in the Marines, me moving to Georgia and meeting an active alcoholic and marrying him, divorcing him and getting my CDL to drive trucks, and the chain keeps going. Breast cancer to the day. Why? I learned you don't ask why, you just sit back and go along for the ride. Because you know what? God gives me a ride in my life. I've heard it said that if you wrote down when you first came into the rooms what your expectations were or what you wanted to achieve, the list I would have shorted myself. I didn't write a list. I just said, okay, y'all told me to go in on blind faith. And when I first started, the first thing I did was to believe in a power greater than myself that would restore me to sanity. It was a coffee pot, because the coffee pot did what it was supposed to do. You filled it up with water, you put in the coffee, you turned it on, and it did what it was supposed to do. So for the first year and a half of my recovery, it was a coffee pot I prayed to. And I was a coffee maker, so I knew how to do that right. Then I started realizing that the God of my understanding is a loving and caring God. And he's the one who's here for me and for you guys. We're a family. See, like, somebody told me, we got the same last name. And I'm like, huh? Oh, yeah, N.A. And then they looked at me and go, no, Robin, addict. Oh, yeah! So, sometimes my mind don't work too good. That's my best thinking part, And then I remember that my best thinking got me here, because I paid a lot of money for this seat. And I remember that. And the one thing I always remember is that girl that was in the bed next to me when I was strapped down in the psychiatric ward. I remember her. I can sometimes see her face when my head is doing all its best thinking again. When my head is coming up with ways and conniving, and because I still got all those tendencies. Ain't nothing leave. And I'm thinking of all the, how I can manipulate this and how I can manipulate that. And you should have seen me when they was taking my house. Boy, I was coming up with all kind of conniving ways. I was calling other addicts, too, who had already lost their houses and had already been through all that. And they were giving me their conniving ways. You know what's really crazy is two sick addicts on the telephone talking about some conniving. Man, sure, you could write a book on it, okay? And then I had to sit back and say, wait a minute. God, what you want me to do? Then I had to go, okay, before I make another step, let me go to my home group and tell them what I'm trying to think about doing. Because, see, if I share with y'all what is going on in my head and what I'm getting ready to connive to do, y'all put brakes on me in a heartbeat. Because there's one of y'all that's not as sick as me. At that point, with what I'm saying, to pull me aside and say, Rob, listen, you can't do that. That don't make no kind of sense. Because look at what you're building yourself up to. As far as different things that I do in my life, I do not do any major things or minor without talking it over with one of you guys. I don't go and change jobs or spend money on thriftily like I love to do. I'm paying my bills like I'm supposed to. Yeah, at 21 years, I got bills. At 21 years, I've got crises just like I had back then. But guess what? It's not as bad. They call me the bill collector, and I'd be like, okay, well, here's what I can do. Because I learned that's how I'm supposed to do it. You guys taught me when I get into a predicament, I'm supposed to approach the predicament. Don't run away from the predicament or hide from the predicament. I'm supposed to look at the predicament and do the things I need to do. And once I start doing what I need to do, God will take care of the rest of it. And I ain't got to worry about it. But I'm not going to lie to you and say, once I turn it over, I don't take it back. And me and him been talking about that because I asked him, could you please not let me take it back so easily? And he's not willing to do that. But it's okay because I'm getting a lot better at that as time goes. So at one day, at 4.5 years, at 21.5 years, it's still a work in progress. I'm spiritually maturing every single day. And that's the best that I can do for today. And if no one told you they love you, I do. And thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.
We gonna circle up.
Tradition,
and it is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us of its principles before personalities.
And that means to me that I can tell people what I said here, but I certainly can't tell them what you said here, or that you were even here. Let's have a moment of silence for this still sick and suffering addict inside and outside these rooms, and for the little baby that's going to be born at 10:15 this morning with the addiction, and we'll be there for him. Who woke us this morning?
God, grant us the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today. Keep coming back because it works if you work it, but you gotta work it every day and night.
And you're worth it.
Thanks for sharing.
Oh man, how you doing?
I want her to sign my book, man. Give me a pen.
Thank you so much.
I want her to sign your book.
Yeah, just get it back when we're done. I'm gonna go out and smoke.
I'm Robin. My name. My glasses a second.
Okay.
Charles, I saw you sitting over there.
Yeah, I love you, Charles. I love you.
Thank you so much of Jerry B. from California.
Oh, really? What part?
I'm up in Northern California.
That's my destination. Once I get out of the truck, because the company I drive for does not go that far without a team, and I don't want to.
I can give you my number.
Yeah, I love getting numbers. I love getting numbers. I try to talk to people all the time.
Yeah, me too. My phone bill is,
21 years?
you know what? My phone bill is high, but I'm not.
And by the way, I usually say my last name is Robin Williams, but I do not know Mindy. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna get yours
Hey, could
too.
you please put Helen in yours, please? I love that. 21.
I put it on my little.
Yeah.
Good. Jerry B. from
I'm
California.
Charles. Jay, I'm running for Virginia. Actually, Charles Johnson. I'm not running for all of that.
Okay.
I don't mind getting my last name.
Okay.
A little bit of blood that I got in there, but he also
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I got a pen over here.
Okay, and then I'm gonna give
Actually,
you
he
mine
left.
also.
Yeah, he had to smoking them cancerous cigarettes. I quit 2 years. I quit crack and cigarettes at the same time.
Well, you know what, God bless you. I quit smoking cigarettes July 26th of 2009.
I quit in August 12th was my last cigarette in 2008, and I picked it back up in May of 2009. I'm an addict, and I know
Hey,
it.
that's okay. My mom told me since I picked
You know what? It's one thing about when you ask God to do something, He's going to do it. And I've been running around here for years talking about, okay, God, stop me from smoking these cigarettes. Stop me from smoking these cigarettes. I quit. I don't. I quit. I don't. Quit back and say the nice one.
When you were tired already.
You know what I'm saying? And what
write it on
happened
there.
is God sent me over to the hospital. I had to have just a chest x-ray. Now I'm driving across the Bay Bridge, San Francisco Bay Bridge to work. I got water on the left, water on the right. I get a call from the hospital. I take the phone, I don't know who it is. I say, hi, this Jerry. Hi, this guy's a hospital. We thought it was Ollie, you know. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, first of all, I'm driving.
Nice meeting you, Charles. Call me, and when I get into
Roanoke, Virginia?
okay, you know where's it? Over by the airport?
Yes.
There, I work for Avon Express.
Okay.
That's where our yard is, over there by Sam's, right after Sam's. There, our yard, we share it with a couple other companies.
I know where that is.
Because sometimes I go there, they'll give me a load coming from like Atlanta to there, and I can't go anywhere afterwards. So I'm stuck there for at least my 10-hour break.
I do
Who
that.
sleeps for 10 hours?
Yeah, and Danny, that's my sponsor. So, yeah,
Oh, okay.
we are both there. So definitely call.
Call me.
So this is my cell. That's my home number. I'm also vice chair for the area where my home group is at for our brunch. Okay? And give me a call. I believe I brought some more flyers and I have them with me up in the room. Brought here to the convention.
You put them on the table and then
Yes.
flyers?
But give me a call because if they're all gone, I got some more up in my room.
Okay.
In my suitcase, okay? And this number here, I never changed. I've been had it for almost 15 years now. Just don't change. Too much pressure.
Oh, I know. That's why
I
I didn't want to change mine, but I did.